Let's let it rip, man. It's good to see you. We were supposed to meet up in Nashville a couple days ago, but you got smacked with the COVIDius, and I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I dodged it. I dodged it so much. I've done a few tours, when we got the first false all clear in June last year, I toured, and then I toured with like each of the variants, and I was super responsible. I'd sort of stockpiled tests and I would test every day. I just didn't want to be like Typhoid Mary and take it to the next town.
The
And
variant tour.
yeah, and then it hit me right before the festival. Honestly, it's it wasn't the best because I'm about to drop a record and I should be there to promote it and all that crap. But it really didn't hurt my feelings to miss that festival. I can't lie. It's
Yeah. It's
that kind of shit. That
yeah,
stuff's a
man.
lot.
I know the for those who don't know, I mean, Americana Fest. It's this big music festival. I guess it's kind of like the South by Southwest for Americana music, whatever Americana is. And yeah, I mean, I hadn't been to a music industry schmooze networking event in probably 5 years. I just stopped going to them, and I feel like my
Smart
mental
man.
health has improved since. And man, those first 2 days being down there, I was at like industry hangs. I wanted to end my own life, man. I was like, I lasted 20 minutes at the first industry hang. I was like, I forgot how to talk to people. I used to be able to zing and zang. I used to have stuff to say. I was the first hang. Hanging out with these four like high-powered music attorneys, and I just had nothing. Just standing awkwardly in the circle. I just had nothing. And then I at some point I just jumped in. I was like, well, you know what they say about lawyers. If you're not a lawyer, you're doing pretty good. And that got no laughs, and
Nothing.
they hated me, and it was
Nothing.
just donuts. So
I gotta
um,
tell you, I mean, I wouldn't mind having a couple of lawyers in my pocket, but that would be like if I got in trouble. Like a music lawyer, they don't seem like they could come in handy, and they wouldn't be clutching in most situations. Like,
you mean why? Because you think they would just go soft, or what? What's the theory?
I don't know. It's I'm not gonna be calling one of them for bail. Let's put it like that. Come sing my bail, please.
Yeah, how much does a music attorney cost? I mean, I know some great ones, and then I know some that have billed me like $800 for a half hour. So
I don't even know. I'll have every time which has only happened a few times when I switch labels, I'll have one look over the contract just to make sure that I don't have to name my firstborn something after the label or something. But yeah, I don't have much dealings with them.
yeah, that's I mean, that's I don't want to call it a high art, but you almost have to respect someone who's willing to spend 12 hours just squinting and reading through mind-numbing 8-point font. You know what? Like, how is that even possible? How is that
Yeah.
humanly possible?
Well, I mean, the job has actually got to change on them so much because I mean, the whole business has changed out from under us. Like I've been doing it since like '99, but like it's changed out from under me 3 times. It's completely different. So back then the contracts didn't involve thinking about digital rights and stuff like this.
Mm.
And I bet they got like fucking some of these guys probably have to think about hologram rights or something really super late.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
trying to get ahead of the curve. They're like, where's the next place this guy could get fucked?
Yeah. And the law can never keep up with technology, so that's a
No,
tough battle.
I don't know.
Um, I like how you say the word "fucked." By the way, fucked. That sounds awesome. Speaking of music networking industry events, do you have any good like bad music networking stories or anything? That's a
Mm.
question I've never asked anyone before.
I don't know. For better or worse, I've avoided a lot of that stuff. I did it back when I first started. I was pretty green, and so I'd go and do. I'd play at publishing houses trying to get a publishing deal. And
Yeah.
you play them your songs, and they were always be like, they were all in Nashville. So every one of them was like, "You wrote these songs by yourself?" I'm like, "Yeah," and I fucking got dressed and drove down here. I'm an adult. But in
Yeah.
Nashville, it takes like 4 people to write a song together. They put them in a room on Monday morning, and they were just like, "You wrote these by yourself?" And I didn't know if he was fucking with me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I wrote them by myself. I'm a big boy."
Because they're all co-writes, I guess. Hey.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
big thing, and I think they're just trying to hedge their bets too. They're like, "Oh, we got these artists, and they've got to be delivering us so much stuff. Let's put them with one of our other artists. There's a
Yeah.
chance that we're gonna get some money." I don't even know how that
Man,
shit works, man.
that's got to be the cushiest job in the world, is to run one of those like songwriting factories where a person just buys a mansion on Music Row and then just hires poor bastards to come in there and write songs all day, you know? And then he like, what
Yeah.
is he uses some sort of percentage of the rights to like the 15 to 20 songs that get written there every day, and then you're just raking it in if one or two of them hits. That really
It
accumulates over time.
with the country radio does. Yeah, that's the only thing. Pop and country radio are the only place where the machine still exists. You know, you get a hit on like modern country radio, and there's you know two country stations in every town, and they only play like 20 songs. They'll just rotate them like
Yeah, man.
it's almost like it's 1984 and Thriller just came out. You'll be hearing whatever that track is 1,000 times a day in every
Yeah.
market. So they figured out a way to make it still pay. But
Getting
yeah, I don't know. I dipped my toe in it when my kid was born, because I was living in Nashville. I was like, okay, I'll write some of these things. I hit myself with a frying pan and dumb myself down and go in and write some
yeah.
bullshit, and couldn't do it, man. Fucking just soul killing. Met some nice people. I did it. I did it less than 10 times, and every
Yeah.
time it was just yeah.
What's the worst song you've ever written?
Um. Oh, you know what? Probably. Oh God, that's really. There's a lot of those. I'll finish these bad ideas just for myself a lot of times. I wrote a song about Kiss taking off their makeup and breaking my heart, but people still, those are the kind of songs you can't really play out loud because people will attach to them. Those novelty things.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I did write one because I joked around about, I never wrote songs about trucks or anything. Because some people think I'm country music, and it's not. I'm just from Mississippi originally, and so I sound like this.
Sure.
Genre. I don't fuck with genre, but I'm like, look, I don't write about trucks. This is a thing I always used to say. But then I was at a bar in Nashville, and there was this couple on top of each other, and somebody was, the ubiquitous get a room. Somebody said, I was like, I don't have to get a room. It's Nashville. They can just take it to the truck. I was like,
Yeah.
You know what? Give me a pencil. I'm going to write
Yeah,
take it
yeah,
to
yeah.
the truck.
That's
And so
something.
I wrote take it to the truck in that era that I was trying to, get my kids some college. Yeah, that one was a sleeper.
You could sell that to that guy Wheeler Walker Jr. Isn't
Right?
he the guy who writes like comedy country songs? Like,
I've only heard a little bit of his stuff, and yeah, it seems like it. I don't know how kitsch it is. I don't know how. It's not like a Weird Al thing, but yeah, he does write. There's humor involved.
yeah, it's damn funny. So you got a little alt country twang in your songs. Did you grow up listening to country music or not? Not really.
Yeah, you just couldn't avoid it. But I grew up, like I said, in Mississippi. But it was, it was church music and blues and roots music. But I was just, also like the little hood rat in the suburbs, growing up with MTV.
Yeah.
So and then whatever the kid down the street, the older kid, turned me on to, as far as he gave me Minor Threat. Same time he gave me, Iron Maiden and like I whatever, I just get, and I was really into metal, and I just took whatever came at me, and it was really piecemeal. There were I had subscriptions to like whatever magazines and stuff, but you didn't get a lot of firsthand exposure to music. You used to really have to hunt. There were no record stores there, and so I just took what I could get, and so it's kind of probably really influential on the sort of Cuisinart thing I do.
Yeah, man. Do you remember the first time you got paid to play music?
Yeah, I was 13 when I started playing guitar, and so I used to play, and I took whoever needed a guitar slinger, and I would play in metal bands, and then I would take my metal guitars and play in country bands. And so I used to, my poor dad, he used to have to stay. He'd have to go to the gig and drop me off and stay because I was underage, and so he had to sit through just garbage, just awful music. Played in death metal bands, but I played in like a place called Bad Bob's Vapors. It was the first sort of consistent gig with a country band, and it was on a strip called Brooks Road, which is to this day still a very, very sketchy area in Memphis. And my old man would have to go and sit at Bad Bob's Vapors and make sure nobody threw beer bottles at us. And yeah,
What a champion.
Yeah. He put in the time. Good dude.
You got a particular like soul crushing gig from that era on the toilet bowl circuit early on?
um, let me see.
Did people actually throw beer bottles at you, like full
Well,
glass beer bottles?
more that they would just be thrown around the room. You
Ooh.
know, it was just a little rowdy place. It was, you know, it wasn't specifically at us. We weren't bad. I mean, it was a pretty good band, frankly. I
Yeah.
just was playing country guitar, so it was no big job. But the two singers actually really sang great harmonies. Let me see. None of those went poorly. They were, you know, there were some fist fights and stuff. I we ended up doing a flatbed out in the baking sun one time on that band, and you know, overcast 1 o'clock and in summer in Mississippi. You know, just
That's tough.
yeah, I can't think about. We survived, but nah, you know, there aren't too many tragic things from those days. And also, I don't remember a lot of those days. You
Yeah.
know,
Do you,
it was
do you know
so long ago.
do you know Carter Halsey?
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's a good friend of mine. And
Okay.
he actually like a couple years I was touring with him and he turned me on to your music, but I didn't know anything about you, but he was just so pumped on this one moment of tour you guys had together, and we can cut this out if you want, but he said,
No,
"Yeah,
totally.
I was on tour with this guy Cory Brannan and we were waiting for him to come to the van and he showed up late and then he just opened the door in this profound moment and he said, all right, everybody, I'm gonna need this whole bench seat. And then apparently you just face planted onto the bench seat and slept for the whole the whole drive next to whatever the gig was.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I mean, tour's exhausting, man. You know, because it's just me. You know, I've been doing it for all these years, and 90% of the time I'm solo, and so I don't take anybody. I drive all the stuff, and so you have you know, if you're up northeast, you're fine. The gigs are, you know, the towns are pretty close together. But as soon as you hit West Texas, and there's, you know, it's eight
Yeah,
hours between the gigs
dismal,
and stuff.
dismal.
Yeah.
Well, you say you don't remember a lot of those early days. What was that like? Just drinking too much whiskey? What was the paint a picture?
Yeah, yeah, just drinking. I drank too much in my 20s and good bulk of my 30s. I yeah, so yeah, those are they blur. But a lot I don't know, man. As I get older, all that stuff just sort of blurs. The timeline, somebody just shook it, just scrambled the whole thing, and so I'll be remembering something completely, you know, 5 6 years out of. For me, it it segments off my the years went away off the line and the towns came up because I left Memphis in like 2002 and went to LA. And then I went to Brooklyn. Then I went to Fayetteville, Arkansas. Don't ask why. Then I went to Austin for a few years. And then I went to Nashville. And so those are my markers now. You know, the
Yeah.
towns that I lived in, I'm like, oh, okay, this must have been around then. And, you know, I remember Austin. I can remember this 2007, 2008 around the recession because all the cranes stopped moving downtown that they were building all this
Oh
shit. And
yeah.
then all of a sudden the construction is not working. So I can pinpoint the Austin years. You know,
Why'd you go to Fayetteville, Arkansas?
I was dating a young lady and she was finishing her school up there. So I did a couple years in the Ozarks.
All right.
It's super weird there. It's actually pretty lovely as far as Arkansas goes. Uh, Fayetteville and Little Rock, best
Did you
Arkansas
get your
can go right
heart
to hell.
crushed?
No, I might have done the crushing. Uh, yeah,
You were
we went down. She was a lovely, lovely, sweet girl. We went down to Austin after that, and then yeah, split.
okay. What was the out of all those towns? It sounds like you've stopped in the most all these like in music industry hubs, Austin, New York, LA. What did Nashville? What did you find was the most soul crushing city of the industry towns?
Nashville, yeah,
In what
easily Nashville.
sense? Easily, yeah.
Um, yeah, it just it it was already growing like exponentially every day when I moved there. And thank you. Sorry, they opened the door for me. Yeah, it's one of those towns that just it. There's so many great musicians there, you know, but people are moving from all over there to make it. You know, that whole thing. It's just I don't know. But the town itself, they just want to keep that tourist dollar going. So they don't give a shit about musicians, local musicians. And so the town just got so expensive that musicians can't live there anymore, for the most part. And so you have to keep going further and further out from the town. And then, but the city just stuccos over all the history,
Yeah,
just to
I've
throw
noticed
up new
that.
condos. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's bad.
it's just not very forward thinking. And I get it, cities got to grow, but they're growing at the expense of what made the city attractive in the first place to me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I don't want to go to country Disney World. I don't give a shit about anything that's downtown. I don't give a fuck about that. Of course, the ramen's great, but all that other, that theme park downtown, that's what they're trying to keep greased.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, so everything else sort of suffers and you lose. Any sort of grit that the city has kind of gets, really, really gentrified. And
Yeah, no, I couldn't have said that better myself. It is one of the more plastic kind of looking places I've ever been to, but you can tell because you can see those remnants of like that old world Nashville. There's like a few old dive bars left that are just magical, but
yeah,
they're
Bobby's
almost
Idle Hour still
they're almost
there.
all gone. Yeah. Have you ever eaten
Station
at
Inn still there.
Brown's Diner?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I used to live close to Browns. Yeah.
that's one of the greatest rat holes I've ever been to. It's so
It's a
great.
nice dump. Yeah. Yeah. That's sort of, you can gauge the town. You're like, okay, are there any shitholes in a lucrative real estate part of town? It's like, have they raised over all of the dumps yet?
Yeah, I
It's
mean, I
from here, so it's kind of gentrification proof. Memphis is kind of roughneck, and even though it is on the up in a lot of places, and they've redone it, um, there's no way to get rid of the grit in Memphis. It's just not. We're so sprawled and spread out, and
yeah.
so the city's gonna. But Memphis has got its own damn problems. But
Yeah, I
whatever.
mean, to put a positive spin on it, that's the great thing about crime. It keeps the all-inclusive vacationers out, and you want a place where art meets crime, and not too much crime, but just to
A
keep it feeling
nice little
real.
balance. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. My kiddo's room is on the back of the house. Let's put it like that. That's the neighborhood I live in. I don't
yeah.
want a stray bullet coming through the window.
Damn. Have you had any trouble down there?
Yeah. I mean, it's Memphis. It's yeah. When I used to live here back in my 20s, I left Mississippi and came up here right after high school. Uh, we would all be like, "Oh, it's not that bad," and then we start swapping stories. I'm like, "Well, I have been mugged 3 times and broken into 4 times, and I got in my car with a gun in my ribs for 2 hours."
Damn.
And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's the war zone." But I've been lucky since I moved back. Nothing's really happened. Well, somebody did take my catalytic converter out from under my van a couple weeks ago, but
Classic.
that's happening everywhere.
Do you have any good advice for if you get held up at gunpoint or if you get like mugged?
Do whatever they say. Just don't think of any movie that Bruce Willis ever starred in. Just do what they say.
So tell me this. Oh, I had something good, Corey Brandon. I lost it. Do what they say. Getting mugged, getting robbed. I don't know. Ask me something, and it'll come back to me. I'll get it back.
Where are you located?
I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Actually, I think Milwaukee's the
All right.
fifth most dangerous city in America now. So
Nice.
good
Yeah, you got a
job,
little
Bruce
grit.
City. Yeah, man. I mean, Milwaukee's incredible. It's maintained that like its architecture is just such a throwback. All this old German, Polish architecture. It's a magic town, and every neighborhood has like its own little weird kind of old timey vibe to it. You feel like you're gonna see like the Pringles guy with a monocle and a top hat walking around the sidewalk or something.
It's been a piece since I've been there, but I've always had a good time when I play there. Man, I can't even remember the club I play there. Uh,
Are you coming to Milwaukee on this tour?
Honestly, I have no idea. I hardly ever look ahead.
That's
Usually even when
great.
I start the tour, I'll look at the week that's coming up, and that's about as far ahead as I can look, just sort of get the region of the country. I don't think I am. Don't quote me on that. I'll have to check out the site.
Well, what was the point in time where you were like, was there a moment or a happening where all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can play music for a living and tour, and people will come?
Yeah. I just did it, I didn't start writing songs till I was almost 25. I just kind of started late as far as that goes. I play guitar, since I was young. But when I started writing songs, I almost, immediately wrote like a ton of them, I guess just from waiting. And put out that record. And I had, we got like good press. I had a good publicist kind of thing that she took it on as our pet project. And so we got um, like rock, like pop press almost. I played Letterman and all that crap.
Oh,
Like it
wow.
shouldn't have happened. I was on like literally like a one man, ran label from Memphis, like a super independent thing. And so when I first started touring, it was like anybody starting touring that hasn't built up a crowd. It's just, I mean, you get in this press and stuff, and then you start touring, and it's like, oh yeah, well nobody knows me in Boise, you know.
Yeah.
And so it really is just starting from the ground up. But I would go out a lot of it. I would tour early with my buddies in a band called Lucero, and they were like just road dogs, incessant tours. And I would go out and I would open for any band I could, any punk band, any rock band, no matter genre. And then just slowly started to build it up. And then it took a lot on the chin to play it in places for more. I joked about putting a song out called "More Songs for Soundmen and Bartenders," but the yeah, I guess it just started to look better mid 2000s.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
So that was an
the
era
first
when
record.
like a couple when like traditional press was like still had carried a lot more weight. Like you could get a couple nice write-ups and that could start to kind of really propel things. Whereas
It
now that
did.
doesn't
It
seem the
helped.
case. Yeah.
It totally helped. I mean, it helped from. I mean, completely dry. I'd be going to all these towns completely dry. So I mean, it did help that there were you could at least use the pull quotes, from Playboy or Pitchfork or whatever the fuck,
Right, right.
and so that stuff sort of helps. It doesn't anymore. Again, it's all pixelated into the finest layer of pixels and spread amongst,
Yeah.
it's like pissing in the ocean. And so it's I who knows what the hell's going on now, but yeah, I I started at that time, and I started, my first record came out around the time of Napster, and so like I said, the industry's changed out from under me like three times, and so every time it's less sustainable when it rears its head again.
Oh
What the new
no.
form is going to be? Oh yeah, I mean it's just the way it is. It's just the genie's not going back into the bottle of everybody having a subscription service and having access to everything in the world.
Right, right.
There's no way that's going back in the bottle, and they have too much power for even majors to have leverage on them to negotiate better rates. I don't see I don't see anything
Yeah, I mean,
sustainable coming up.
you must
There are
feel
good sides.
really lucky about just kind of almost getting in the music game before the internet got too fast, basically,
Right? Yeah, I outran the internet in my early touring. Um, I guess, yeah. I mean, I got to lay down. I think, don't get me wrong. There are upsides. The upsides that you can sit at your house with your mic and your whatever the fuck, and if you've got to, I don't, get you an extra dose of Adderall and fucking go on and do TikTok or whatever the fuck. But you can be in theory, in millions of houses, for 5 seconds at a time. But it's kind of a race to the bottom for attention span, I believe. But there is potential for, not having to do that. There's potential for putting music straight out. I know people that don't ever leave their house and they just put records out and like, here it is. And you can have distribution. You can go to Bandcamp and just put your thing out. So there are upsides to the way things are working now. I'm not just this old get off my lawn guy, but I am a blue collar musician. I have kids. I have to. This is my job, and it's been my job for a long time. And so they keep renegotiating the fucking contract. That's all I'm saying.
yeah.
Like I
No
didn't sign
shit.
up for this shit.
What's been kind of worked for you in more recent years that's kind of moved the needle as far as reaching more audience beyond your existing audience?
Uh, um, touring with different folks. I mean, and again, that's just an old one. That's an old school. I try to tour with um, any sort of act that's you know I don't I try to avoid going out with the things you would expect. And even when they choose the openers, in the towns, I'm like, just anybody but a white guy with an acoustic guitar and a
Oh yeah.
twang. I'm like, just anything. I don't want that. I don't want to be that myself. I'm just trapped in this fucking thing. But you know, yeah, it's just tour. I just have to stay on the road, and that works out because I have to stay on the road anyway to keep the lights on. Um, so that I don't know about moving the needle. I don't know about expanding. I seem to be solidifying my
Yeah, all right.
fans, and so they're like they go from enthusiasts to zealots. Let's put it like that, and then they do the work. They spread it, and so it's the old grassroots bottom up thing. Word of mouth
Yeah,
and
man.
people, and then a lot of if I look and I see pretty girls at the show, I'm like, oh yeah, that some boyfriend that they dated, that
Yeah.
they broke up with or whatever, turned them on to this music. Like, I know how people get turned on to these, uh,
Do you have
I don't
do you have
know,
any
man.
advice for like musicians that have young kids or are thinking about having kids and then are freaked out they're gonna have to retire from music?
I don't. I don't. Honestly, I don't know. My advice usually to anyone that's thinking about doing this, I'm like, don't do it. Do something else. You know. But specifically for people that are having kids, um, well, yeah. I mean, don't do the no brainers. Like I used to go out for like 7 months. The no brainers are uh, no longer than 3 weeks, and take 3 weeks off between that next run. If you're going to do it, if you're going to do a 2 month tour, break it up into 3 week intervals. Um, those kind of things, because you'll come back and especially those first 4 years, you'll come back and you'll be like, who the fuck is this kid? This is a different kid than when I left. They
Right.
changed so
Yeah.
much,
Yeah.
and those are real, real important years. Um, it's not worth, Des Moines is not worth missing that. It's not,
Right. Right.
you know, um, I had the other thing I did was I had to learn how to ride on the road. I never rode on the road before. I don't know. I guess because I just a low grade, having to drive and keep the van between the ditches.
Yep.
Um, and so I would always get restless as soon as I got off the road, and I would use all that, when you're sleeping in the the floor is still running under you like the road, and you have that energy, and now you're still. I used to write when I got off the road, but then I had kids, and so I would just want to see them when I got off the road. So I had to teach myself how to ride on the road, and all it is for me anyway. It's just before I put the key in the car in the morning, I just start free associating. This reminds me of this. This looks like this. You do 10 of those, and yeah, really just start to notice your surroundings. You've never been down the same road you live on twice. It's always different, but we don't know. We don't see that shit. And so just in the morning, start to notice, make a couple of metaphors, analogies in your head, just a couple connections, and then the rest of the day it'll just happen as you're driving. For me, anyway. And so and then I had I had a really good year with that. Right before the plague, I wrote like 50 songs, which is it's a decent year for me. And so then I had to scramble during the plague and shuffle and find a way to earn money. And I didn't write during any of that time. I had put out cover records. I would take commissions from fans, anything they wanted me to cover, and then I would put those records out direct. So I had to learn how to mix and record and set up a home studio, and then I had avoided it for all these years in the studio. I would, if I knew, as I'm so obsessive, I knew if I learned what this one knob does, I want to know what they all do. And so I just didn't do it. And during COVID, I had some time on my hands. So I went down the
Nice.
rabbit hole.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I gotta check out some of your cover records then. Do you
Yeah, I'll send them to you.
are you like diagnosed with OCD actually?
Um, Not OCD. I just have, uh, I do. I'm compulsive. Yeah. I mean, I don't. I've never been diagnosed, but when I do a thing, I do a thing. You know,
Yeah.
and I don't. And honestly, I do it to the exclusion of everything else. So I don't really have a, you know, like like right now I'm learning gospel piano, and it's like that's what I'm doing. I don't go to the gym anymore. You know, before I was going to the gym for a little bit, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not gonna die. This is fun.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just I do a thing, but I really do the thing. You know, I get this laser focus going on, and
That's
it's it's a pain in the ass sometimes, but it can be really good.
right, a blessing and a curse. And like if you're focusing your efforts and just being obsessed with something for creative purposes, that's amazing. What about the other side? Is it have you gone down any like dark patches where you kind
Oh
of
God, yeah.
it didn't work in the same positive way?
Oh yeah, yeah, and especially when I'm putting off other things, I'll find ways to be obsessed with. I mean, like my kiddos are born. My son was born, and I was I was freaking out. You know, like again, you know, like how the hell am I going to make this work? And so I was had this period where I was going and finding furniture, and I was distressing furniture. I was just in the back beating furniture with chains and just psychotic shit. In retrospect, I was like, "What the fuck was it?" We had a house that we were renting, and I had to fill up rooms. So that was ostensibly the point. I was like, "Oh, I'll get some old furniture and I'll make it look cool, and I'll paint it and I'll strip it and make it look good." But I mean, in retrospect, it's like, no, that was an obsessive bit. And I'm like,
Oh,
I
wow.
went way too far. Yeah.
Yeah, man,
So,
I got the visual and it's I don't mean to laugh, but it sounds hilarious.
oh, it is actually hilarious. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Fucking mental health issues. It's like if you survive them, it can be pretty fucking funny when you look
Dude,
back.
I agree so much, man, because like when you're in the midst of a mental, whatever you want to call it, anxiety attack, or even if it's mild, if it's a panic attack, if you're depressed, oftentimes when the clouds part and you like get past those completely shit moments in your brain, it is kind of funny in retrospect, the things that you worry about or you convince yourself of.
It's true, and
It's
if you
like
can remember it, yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
unnecessary.
it,
Like so much of it is so unnecessary, and I have the same. I have like complete OCD thinking, circular thinking. I've had it. I've had that my whole life, where I just get obsess on a negative thought and then double down
uh,
on it, and it's all I think about, and it's like total misery. Like I call it brain prison. And
yeah. I spiral. I mean,
yeah,
I'm on some certain little meds that keep me from totally spiraling, but
yes,
these are just
same.
like depression stuff. But
Yeah, I started taking some anti-depression meds about a little over a year ago, and that's drastically improved my life, you know? It's just like,
yeah, it's the same. And there's a couple little things I have like for sort of flash anxiety stuff that comes up that'll keep you know, in real time. But yeah, I have a sort of I'm evened out on some things that kind of, and they don't, you know, everybody's worried about them like making you a zombie. I don't know. I tried one, it didn't work. Went back to a different one or whatever, and it did work. It's, you know, and I have like super low dose, but it just sort of evens things out a little bit. I
yeah,
still
it's
find plenty of shit to worry about. Don't get me wrong.
totally, yeah.
But
But it's amazing to just not have those rushes of complete dread, you know? Which
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
happen for no
yeah.
reason, you know, at least in my case. It's like a lot of it's around hypochondria for me. I like really will freak out about, I'll read some health thing on the news or hear about someone that had got some disease or some cancer. And then I start obsessing about, oh, symptoms or what if that happens to me? And then before
Oh
I know it,
no.
I'm like 30 minutes in and I've been like panicking at a low dose anxiety attack for a straight 30 minutes. And then I try to snap out of it, but that shit can last for can last for days on and off.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm glad I don't have that particular
Oh,
flavor.
the
That sounds
hypochondria.
awesome.
Yeah, the
Yeah, the
hypochondria
hypochondria.
sucks balls, but yeah, I mean, I've been hitting the bicycle hard this summer, and I'm 10 minutes from the lake, so I jump in the ice water every day, and that really helps. I'll probably do that after this pod.
That sounds fun.
What do you do? What do you do for mental health around Memphis or in your life in general?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, honestly, just motion helps. You know, I just walk or I'll go to the gym, and it's not like you know, it's not like I'm lifting heaps. You know,
Yeah.
it's like just I but just a little, physical activity really helps. The A lot of it, I have to remember, because sometimes the depression itself, is pretty intense, and that happens, and I just have to remember that my brain fucking lies to me.
Yeah.
I can't trust it, sometimes. And when things start getting like that, and you can't sort of see, you get to this point where you think, you look and you're like, okay, well, I don't know if I'm depressed or if I'm just fucking, I have clarity, and the world is like this, and the world is just fucking pointless. And the truth is, yeah, it is kind of pointless if you fucking look at it like that. It's completely fucking pointless, and we're all gonna, our names are gonna be weathered off of the stones after we're gone. It doesn't, none of it matters. But I mean, fuck, that's no way to fucking live. We got a fucking chance at it, and just have, fucking keep your ass busy, try to be useful. But
Yeah, we must distract ourselves from our own irrelevancy. I totally agree. It's
exactly, I mean, it's like, and I find that the easiest way to do that is to either uh, do something for other people, for stay, get out of yourself, because I don't interest myself enough to be solipsistic too much. I don't really like myself. I don't like being this. And that's when I write songs and things like that. And, I don't write confessional stuff. I don't interest myself. I have these feelings, and I use these feelings to cast them in stories to try to get at a truth that rings true to me, seems interesting. But to do that, I cast them as characters and things. And so, but in general, I find when I get in my head like that, the best thing for me is to do something for other people. And for me, music is that. I play music for myself. It's very consistent happiness. I have a joy of learning new things about music, and how it is when you get down in there and you feel like you're sort of finding these sort of secrets in music. And so that's a consistent joy. But the writing of the music and making the music, that's not really I don't know. I have more fun playing it, and I have more fun crafting songs that I hope will be useful for people. I don't like to play things out that are like that point back at me. Oh, this is my pain. This happened to me. That's actually just, it sounds nauseating, frankly. Like that would be awful to me doing that on stage. That's, you do that on a couch, a psychiatrist. Sure. But so I try to write songs that are useful, and so again, that's another way of considering other people. Don't so waste their eight. Even a song like sometimes a song wants to be like 8 minutes long. I'm like, fuck that. I don't need 8 minutes of somebody's time if I could say this thing in 3 minutes. It's like, even that. It's like a modicum of respect for people's time. It's like considering other people. Anyway, sorry.
No. So do you try to find like a level of like finding abstraction in your lyrics, so it's not too specific to like any one person, so they can be useful to more people?
That's a tricky balance for me, because like sometimes abstraction, or like sometimes saying, the car went down the road is much less evocative, or much less, saying the car is, people could picture whatever car they want, and you think. But if you say the vomit brown gremlin, or something like that, it can trigger a thing, and people that never had that color gremlin in their life or whatever, it'll be like it'll have some other attachment that they actually can. So sometimes the specificity, I try to remember that specificity doesn't throw off people. And so I do get really specific with things a lot of times. But particularly, I think one example is I wrote a song after my father died. He died of cancer, and I wrote a song called The Vow. And it was exactly what happened, all the way down to him. My old man was a big dude, and I came home, and he weighed 100 some pounds. He just fucking wasted away. And those details are in there. He was working on, even after he sort of wasted away, he was working on an old car of mine in the driveway. His wedding ring slipped off because he'd gotten so skinny, and he lost it, and we never found it. We dug the whole he dug the yard up. We looked for it everywhere. And so these things made it into the song, and I'm just like, and I didn't put it on the record. And I was just like, it feels too specific to my life, to what happened, to be of any use to anyone. And then my wife, ex-wife, whatever, we're in the middle of it, but she was like, just shut the fuck up and play it live and see if anybody gets any use out of it. And that song is connected to more people than a lot of my other songs. And where I would have thought before that the specifics that no one could relate to, nobody's old man's digging up the wedding ring that he lost working on his car, people will they can attach to what they can attach to, and then the rest of it fills in. So yeah, it's a fine line. But then you get Hank Williams singing, I'm so lonesome I can cry, and he's pulling the most universal images of sorrow in the world, about just the moon behind a cloud and things like this, and it's like that, that can be translated into other languages,
right,
like
right.
the specificity of some of my songs would not translate well. And so it's a balance, there's an argument to either, I think.
How is I definitely relate to you on the depression front, and it becomes, a factor in relationships as well. And I've had significant others that also deal with depression, and then I've, less often, but I have dated one or two just more people from the straight world, I don't know if that makes sense,
normies.
Normies who don't have like as many highs and lows and wild moments. How have you kind of navigated depression within like relationships?
Poorly.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife, who we're getting divorced, but we're still, we got each other's back. We're still great friends. Hell, we still live together at the moment. We decided pre the plague we were going to get divorced, and then the plague happened, and I was like, well, we can't drop this on the kid's head right now,
right. Yeah.
And so we're just like groovy roommates. But anyway, she has had some issues. I don't want to, talk about other people on her. She's, had depression, but she's got that Scandinavian thing where she's like, yeah, I got depression. I'm just going to shut it down. I'm going to deny, she can choose to be happy. She's got an intellectual thing about her where she can be like, this sucks. This is, I feel like this. She can acknowledge it and then just say, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to kill this, which is awesome. I'm not like that. Mine is in my fucking muscles. It's physical, and so, yeah, that's a balance. Understanding that and having the empathy and not feeling like you're on eggshells. In any relationship, there's potential for that whole eggshell thing. Everything that comes out of your mouth, you feel like it could be interpreted wrong because you have so much connection and so many little offshoots on the spider web.
Yeah.
one word triggers the whole web, and it's like the whole thing vibrates. And so that's without mental health issues, and then when you have mental health issues and the web, sometimes the web is electrified, or sometimes it's like you just, and I'm very, she's very Scandinavian. I'm very Irish. I'm very vocal. I'm very hot-blooded in real time. She's very, we can talk about this later. There's those things. And then, I don't know, man. I just, it can't be any harder than any relationship if you acknowledge it, I think. And there's so many things you have to learn in a relationship about the other person and how they're going to react in any way, and what their own things are, how they're going to hear things. So you got to learn that person anyway. Go ahead and learn their mental health. It's like just one more thing to learn. And it's like, if you know that person in and out, that can help.
Yeah.
Little extra work, but worth
Right.
it, I think, in the long
Right.
run.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, man. I mean, being with someone who's, creative and kind of a weirdo in a good way, and their peaks and valleys are going to be lower. And I mean, oftentimes those are the most exciting people, and it's why we're attracted to them. So yeah, there's a tax for everything.
Yeah.
Have you dated another songwriter before, and how did that go? Is that too much neuroses for one relationship, or
I have I have never done that. No.
okay, all right.
I want to go ahead and think through that really quickly, but I don't believe I've ever done that. No, I have not. I've dated, artists. I've dated like, painter. I dated a girl that was like in the ballet and stuff. So I've dated people that have, uh, you know, uh, passions, like hobbies that are passions. So I respond to that. Um, but no, never a songwriter, or a poet either.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's maybe the move is to if you're on the more neurotic spectrum, I think maybe I need like a dentist or like a janitor. Maybe I should date a female janitor or something, or
Yeah, you gotta
yeah, I don't
find your
know, or a
yang. Yeah,
spaceman or
yeah.
space
I don't
lady. That'd
even
be
know
pretty
what
cool.
my opposite. Yeah, I think I don't even know what my opposite would be. Probably Rosie the Riveter would probably balance me. Just somebody in charge. Just got their shit down.
Somebody who can beat you into submission.
Well, I don't know about all that, but
Quit being a pussy, Corey.
suck it up. It's just depression.
What all right, well, we've been riffing for a while. I kind of want to ask you if you're working on any projects. I mean, you're on tour, so you're gonna go out and promote this new record, and it's called
Yeah, the
When I
record
Go I
drops.
Ghost. And
Yeah, the record drops next month on the 14th, and I go out on the 13th. And then yeah, I'll be out for the rest of the year on and off, and then take January off, and then be out all the late winter into spring, and yeah.
nice, man. What's the meaning of the title When I Go I Ghost? Is it quite literal?
Um, yes and no. I like the ones that work on a lot of levels, but it's actually just a lyric from one of the simplest songs on there. It's just the tagline at the end of a song called "When in Rome, When in Memphis," and just which is just the gist of the when in Rome, when in Memphis, when in Asbury Park. It's the
Yeah, I heard
chorus.
that song. That song rules, man.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
great one.
Yeah, and then at the end, it's got that little fucking kumbaya shit where it's around, and it's like, when I go, I ghost, and then Isbell comes in on the "Be Still My Incarcerated" that
Oh,
part,
that's
and
cool. I didn't know he was on there. That's awesome.
yeah, he's great. Him and Brian Fallon, they both sing on
Yeah.
it, and yeah, he was great. Jason came in and played guitar on a couple, and sang on like three of them, and
How
Brian sang
did
on a couple.
how did the Jason Isbell connection come about?
I've known Jason for years, and I knew him through Amanda. I knew Amanda way back. Amanda
Wait, who's
Shires, his
Amanda
wife.
again? Oh, Amanda
Amanda
Shires.
Shires, that Jason's wife.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew her from when she used to be in a band called Thrift Store Cowboys when I first started touring in like 2001 when I would hit Texas and stuff. I think I met her that far back, and I didn't know Jason until I guess right after the Truckers. I did some shows with him when he first started doing the solo stuff. But then we became good friends, and we were in Nashville, and we had a kiddo, and then they had a kiddo, and and then so we would have like game night, and Justin Townsend would come over, and like Jason would mop us all up and Scrabble. He's the best fucking Scrabble player you've ever heard. But and so we became friends and stayed friends. And so, but yeah, I've known Amanda even for longer. Uh, but yeah, so that was great that he was on a couple of albums ago. He was on a record, and then Amanda's been on the records, and yeah, yeah. I've been lucky enough to be doing this so long that I've just sort of fell in with people that are really good humans, but just also that I would be fans of anyway.
Yeah,
You know,
man.
as just as musically, I think he's one of, you know, the best songwriters working today. You know, and I've met all these people over the years that I'm just fans of. On a couple of levels. I've been lucky enough not to meet any shitbags, frankly. I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been touring. You know, you hear these stories. I mean, I've met people that are awful, but not like, um, you know, just terrible musicians. I've just kind of fallen in with really good people.
Yeah, you've got some great friends, great allies. It's great talking to you, Corey Brandon. You're a sweet dude. I hope we can hang in real life someday. And I've never even been to Memphis, so that'll
Holler
happen
if you
at some
cut
point.
through. You know, if you make a wrong turn and end up in Memphis, I'll be around probably.
All right, Corey. Much love, man. Thanks for hanging, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks for taking the time.
Choop.